Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Have you ever thought about how modern our world is? We've got smartphones, instant delivery, robots. But what if I told you that most of these modern ideas aren't new at all? Today, we're diving into 20 things that were invented way earlier than you think. Some of these are going to blow your mind. Let's kick things off with something we all do, taking a selfie. You might think selfies are a product of the smartphone era. But the first one was actually taken in 1839, a man named Robert Cornelius. An amateur chemist and photography enthusiast from Philadelphia set up his camera at the back of his family's shop. The process was slow, requiring a long exposure. He had to uncover the lens, run into the frame, sit completely still for over a minute, and then run back to cover the lens. The result? The world's very first photographic self-portrait. So next time you snap a quick selfie, remember Robert Cornelius and his minute-long pose. How about getting a package delivered to your door? Modern mail seems like a recent convenience, but the concept of a postal system is over 2,500 years old. The Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great created an incredibly efficient network of roads and relay stations called the Angarium. Couriers on horseback would ride at full gallop, carrying messages from one station to the next, where a fresh horse and rider would be waiting. This system was so effective that a message could cross the vast empire over 1,600 miles in about a week. The famous phrase, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers," which we often associate with the U.S. Postal Service, was actually written by the Greek historian Herodotus to describe these ancient Persian riders. Next up, robots. We often credit the 20th century with the dawn of robotics. But Leonardo da Vinci was sketching them out in 1495. He designed a robot knight that could sit up, wave its arms, and even move its head via a system of pulleys and cables. It was essentially a mechanical automaton housed within a suit of armor. While we don't have definitive proof that he built a full working model, his detailed drawings in the Codex Atlanticus show a deep understanding of human anatomy and mechanics. This was a true forerunner to modern humanoid robots, conceived by a genius centuries ahead of his time. Speaking of ancient genius, let's talk about astronomy. The Mayan civilization, without telescopes or computers, developed an incredibly sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. Their astronomers could predict solar eclipses with astounding accuracy. Using complex calendar systems and observational data recorded over centuries, they created eclipse tables, like those found in the Dresden Codex. In some cases, their predictions were even more precise than those made by European scientists in the 18th century. They understood the celestial cycles so well that they could forecast these events far into the future, a feat that demonstrates their profound mathematical and astronomical knowledge. Feeling hungry? Let's grab some fast food. But we're not going to a modern drive-thru. We're heading to ancient Pompeii. The Romans had their own version of takeout restaurants called thermopolia. These were small storefronts, with L-shaped counters that had large clay jars, or dolia, embedded in them. These jars held hot, ready-to-eat food like stews, lentils, fish, and cheese. It was the perfect solution for the many Romans who lived in apartments without private kitchens. Archaeologists have uncovered over 80 of these fast food joints in Pompeii alone, showing just how popular and widespread this ancient convenience was. While you're out, maybe you need something from a vending machine. Believe it or not, the ancient Greeks had those too. Around the 1st century AD, the mathematician and engineer Hero of Alexandria invented a machine that dispensed holy water. When you inserted a coin, its weight would tip a lever, which would open a valve and release a set amount of water. Once the coin slid off the lever, the valve would close, stopping the flow. This clever device was placed in temples to ensure that people took only their fair share of blessed water. It's the earliest known example of an automated dispenser. Let's move on to something that gives students nightmares: multiplication tables. While they seem like a basic part of modern math, their roots go back to ancient Babylon. Archaeologists have found clay tablets, some dating back nearly 4,000 years, that contain complex mathematical tables. One famous tablet, known as Plimpton 322, uses a base 60 number system and contains what are essentially trigonometric tables. They weren't just doing simple multiplication. They were using sophisticated algorithms similar to modern algebra to solve problems related to land surveying and architectural calculations. Now for an invention that saves lives, the earthquake detector. The first one wasn't a complex digital seismograph. but an elegant bronze device created in China in 132 AD by an inventor named Zhang Heng. It was a large vessel with 8 dragons arranged around the outside, each holding a small bronze ball in its mouth. Below each dragon sat a bronze toad with its mouth open. When an earthquake occurred, even hundreds of miles away, an internal pendulum mechanism would swing and trigger one of the dragons to release its ball, which would fall into the toad's mouth below, making a loud noise. The dragon that dropped the ball would be pointing in the direction of the earthquake's epicenter. It was a remarkably accurate seismoscope. Love going to the mall? You can thank the Romans for that. Trajan's Market, built in Rome around 110 AD, is widely considered the world's first shopping mall. This massive complex, built into the side of Quirinal Hill, had multiple levels connected by staircases and featured over 150 shops, or tabernae. You could buy anything from food and spices to cloth and luxury goods. It also had administrative offices and even food courts. It was a bustling center of commerce and social life, very much like the shopping malls we know today. Ever overslept because you forgot to set your alarm? The ancient Egyptians had a solution. They used water clocks, or clepsydras, to tell time. Some of these devices were incredibly advanced for their era. They worked by having water drip at a constant rate from one vessel into another. As the water level in the second vessel rose, it would mark the passing hours. More complex versions, like one described by Plato, were designed to act as alarm clocks. When the water reached a certain level, it would trigger a mechanism that forced air through a whistle, creating a sound to wake you up. Before GPS, how did sailors navigate on cloudy days? The Vikings, legendary seafarers, may have used a secret weapon, sunstones. These were crystals, likely a type of calcite called Iceland spar, that have a unique property called birefringence. This means they can polarize light. By looking at the sky through the crystal and rotating it, a navigator could find the exact position of the sun, even when it was hidden behind clouds or fog. This would have been a massive navigational advantage, allowing the Vikings to undertake long and daring voyages across the North Atlantic. Modern plastic surgery seems like a 20th century marvel, but its origins are in ancient India. As far back as 600 BC, a physician named Sushruta was performing complex surgical procedures. He is often called the father of surgery. In his text, the Sushruta Samhita, he describes over 300 surgical procedures and 120 surgical instruments. His most famous contribution was in rhinoplasty, reconstructing noses, which were often amputated as a form of punishment. He used a flap of skin from the forehead, a technique that is still practiced in a modified form today. He also performed skin grafts and cataract surgery. Imagine a fire breaking out in an ancient city. How would you fight it? The Greeks had an answer: the first fire pump. Invented by Ctesibius of Alexandria in the 3rd century BC, this device was a double-action piston pump. It had 2 bronze cylinders with pistons that moved up and down. When one piston pulled water in, the other pushed it out through a central pipe and a swiveling nozzle. This created a continuous stream of water under pressure, much like a modern fire hose. It was a powerful tool for firefighting in crowded ancient cities. Let's talk about money. Banks, loans, and interest feel like cornerstones of the modern economy, but they were all invented in ancient Mesopotamia. As early as 2000 BC, temples and palaces acted as the first banks. They would store grain and other goods for people and issue receipts. They also gave out loans. A farmer could borrow seeds and pay them back with interest, an extra portion of the harvest. We have clay tablets that are essentially loan agreements and receipts, proving that complex financial systems, including credit, were in place thousands of years before Wall Street. After a long day of inventing, what better way to relax than with a board game? Humans have been playing them for millennia. In ancient Egypt, a game called Senet was popular for over 2,000 years. Dating back to 3100 BC, it was a strategy game played on a board of 30 squares. And it was so important that it was often included in tombs to be played in the afterlife. In China, the game of Go, a complex strategy game of surrounding territory, has been played for over 2,500 years. These games show that our love for strategic thinking and friendly competition is as old as civilization itself. How about a smart home from the Middle Ages? In the 12th century, a brilliant Islamic engineer named Al-Jazari designed and built an incredible array of automated devices. His book of knowledge of ingenious mechanical devices is filled with designs for things like automatic doors, peacock fountains that rotated, and elaborate clocks that tracked the hours with moving figures. One of his most famous creations was a musical robot band that would float on a lake to entertain guests, powered by water flow. His work was a high point of engineering in the medieval world. Modern construction is always looking for more durable materials, but the Romans had a secret: self-healing concrete. Roman concrete was made from a mixture of volcanic ash, lime, and seawater. This unique recipe created a material that was not only incredibly durable but could also repair itself. When small cracks formed and seawater seeped in, the volcanic ash would react with the water to form new minerals that would fill the cracks, actually making the structure stronger over time. This is why structures like the Pantheon and Roman aqueducts are still standing after 2,000 years. We talked about Al-Jazari's automatic doors, but the Greeks had them even earlier. In the 1st century AD, Hero of Alexandria, the same guy who invented the vending machine, designed temple doors that seemed to open by magic. Here's how it worked. A fire on the altar would heat the air in a sealed container beneath it. The expanding air would push water from the container into a bucket. The weight of the bucket would then pull on a series of ropes and pulleys, causing the temple doors to swing open. When the fire was put out, the air cooled, creating a vacuum that siphoned the water back, and the doors would close. Worshippers believed it was divine intervention. Think paper money is a modern thing? Think again. The Chinese were using it as early as the 7th century, during the Tang dynasty. Initially, it was used as private bills of credit by wealthy merchants. By the 11th century, the Song dynasty government had taken over and started producing the world's first government-issued paper currency. Marco Polo was astonished when he visited China in the 13th century and saw people using paper instead of coins. It took another 700 years before paper money became common in Europe. Finally, one of the most surprising early inventions: brain surgery. The Inca civilization, which flourished in the Andes Mountains, practiced a procedure called trepanation, drilling a hole in the skull. This was often done to treat head injuries, headaches, or even for ritualistic purposes. You might think this was a death sentence, but archaeologists have found skulls with clear signs of healing, indicating that patients survived the surgery. In fact, the survival rates for Inca trepanation were remarkably high, around 80%, which is better than the survival rates for similar procedures during the American Civil War centuries later. So there you have it. 20 modern inventions that have been around for hundreds or even thousands of years. It just goes to show that human ingenuity is timeless. From selfies to smart homes, our ancestors were solving problems and innovating in ways that still resonate today. What do you think is the most surprising invention on this list? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos. See you next time.